Welcome once again to the Lion's Roar. This is Sifu David Ross. And so, unfortunately, this is going to be one of those ones that's going to make people uncomfortable. But let's use as a good example Tai Chi. We didn't really have Tai Chi until the Yang family came along and went to Beijing and started teaching. Certainly, it wasn't called Tai Chi originally. Um, but let's be honest. What do we know about Yang when he showed up in Beijing and started teaching? He had been in Chen Village. He had learned something there. We can get into the different controversies here. He was a servant. He was not a adopted indoor student, certainly. I think most people agree that he mixed whatever it is that he learned in Chen Village with other systems. One of the ones brought up a lot is Lohan Chuan. So he came up with Tai Chi for what he was doing. And what he was doing was clearly not the pure stuff that was going on in Chen Village, where he had learned it. So, Chen family representative came to Beijing and started teaching. And he actually adopted the name Tai Chi, which is kind of interesting because it's the teacher adopting the innovation, so to speak, of the student. So, the problem is that we're really not talking about history sometimes. We're talking about my teacher told me this, so this is what I believe. We have sort of a guru relationship going on with, um, our teachers, and we don't want to believe that they would lie to us or even that they told us something that wasn't factual. But reality is that's true. Things that Shantae-san told me, I mean, he was my teacher. I respected him. They turned out not to be correct, either factually. Now, you can argue whether it was just ignorance. I always say ignorance is different than stupidity. It's not a pejorative. It just means you weren't aware of the facts or you believed the wrong version of a story and it wasn't supported by the facts. And then what's interesting is Chen is the original style, whatever you want to call Tai Chi. If you don't want to believe in the Tai Chi name anymore, because like I said, you have that problem that it wasn't originally called Tai Chi. Tai Chi was adopted, but Tai Chi really represented what Yang was doing, and then Chen came and used the term. Whatever was originally in Chen Village, what Yang did was some of that and something else. A lot of the other lineages now then come through Yang. So, if you want to call the original thing Tai Chi, or what they're doing Tai Chi is, or what they're doing Yang style. And of course, then they mixed in their own things. So, if we don't address this, then we can't have a good, realistic vision of what we're practicing or what we're talking about. People don't want to admit this, and you get like ridiculous things like, well, there was Tai Chi before Chen Village because somebody found a book under a rice bag in a hut. I'm being a little facetious here, but you can't rationally believe stuff like this, can you? Somebody found a book conveniently in Beijing. Why wasn't it found conveniently in Chen Village? Why wasn't it found conveniently in Sichuan somewhere or in Guangdong somewhere? Sometimes we have to apply Occam's razor, which is that the most logical explanation is the explanation, which is that students under the Yang lineage, in order to validate themselves, created documents. Another thing we could talk about was, well, what was being done in Chen Village? Well, we have pretty good, solid, reliable documents mentioned a little bit in my book, though my book doesn't go a lot into this kind of stuff, but it touches upon it, that this was a product of militia training for the village. Basically, every village in China had militias. Why? To protect them from outsiders, bandits, vagabonds, to protect their interests in clan wars and battles with other villages, to enforce clan elder power on the local level. Remember, because you had heads of lineages, older members of the village, and they didn't want young members, bachelors, to usurp their power. And a lot of times militia was used for this purpose. People point out very well, Henning being one of them, that a lot of the stuff that's in the original Tai Chi probably came from General Chi's books or was at least influenced by General Chi's books.